Yeah, that touched me wrong,
Jim, before we start, you didn't hear the conversation over here.
No,
We're talking about the leftover bread.
Didn't have
I
my
said I
hearing
put bread and tuna in the blessing box, so if they're hungry,
they better take
what
it.
do?
You eat bread and tuna.
You throw it on there as we were talking.
Oh, her tuna. Yeah, because she talked about tuna. I'm tired
That's
of
what you bring for potlucks.
One time where she's like, well, I'll have people over to my house with tuna fish salad sandwiches. I'm like, I love tuna salad. And I sounded like a whole really big meeting bringing it up. I forgot.
I actually bought a thing of tuna fish at the grocery store. And I'm like, why did I do that? I have a can of tuna. I have mayonnaise. That's all that's in this. But instead, I actually bought a little container.
To be really fancy, chop up some celery and onions.
Oh, and then
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Really fancy. Yeah, that's how Aunt Toddy made it.
You've got something to bring to the potluck.
And cut up in little sandwiches, though. I expect them like a diagonal. Yeah, triangle. I was all excited when you said, I saw other people over for tuna salad sandwiches. I'm like, I don't eat the bread anymore, but I'll skip out the inside.
Cucumber sandwich.
Oh, the fancy cucumber sandwiches.
Are we signing up for, Easter Sunday breakfast?
No, that's a potluck.
Okay, so
It
it's.
is
Bring whatever.
Whatever's in your pot, you bring it.
No,
Tuna fish sandwiches, maybe not the most perfect time for them, but any other time.
Well, I don't know. If you put it on ice.
They might be a big catch.
Tuna fish on Easter morning.
You would be the talk of the town.
Nothing like a little bit of tuna and some chocolate candy.
They go so well together.
Oh, there's cake in the refrigerator for Sunday school, so.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Sunday school is well taken care of.
That's, you guys have some.
Is that big, like, chocolate lasagna thing?
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to take it.
I don't know why nobody wanted them.
I know. I think it's because it's overwhelming. I mean, it's like you gotta eat it all.
It was just like, look like a cake. It was like this.
Chocolate lasagna. So it was like chocolate, cheesecake,
That sounds
and layers of. So you guys just.
We literally could not give it away.
Can I get one of those?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to take yours. I
Oh,
can
no,
just
no.
look at Mark's.
Oh, no, there's tons.
Okay.
Yeah, we literally could not give them away.
It's amazing you can't see a way that you're like,
Why would you want that?
Well, the salmon is, not a lot of people cook anymore.
true.
Yeah.
And nobody probably doesn't know how to cut salmon.
Yeah, salmon, we go salmon 2 or 3 times a week.
You know, the one woman said she
If I go to the
feed it to
store.
her cat. I was like, sacrilege.
I love salmon.
I do too.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Are you talking about fillets?
Yeah.
Oh, we
But
fix
you know
them.
them
We
huge
fix them.
fillets?
We fix them in the oven.
We're $6.99, and last time I looked, they're $12.99.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a half a fish. I mean, it was huge. Yeah, and
I got lost.
people would look at that and go,
They
nah.
were scared of it.
So
Yeah.
next Thursday,
I'm surprised they were scared of the chocolate lasagna, though. I mean,
because.
I know, it's a chocolate cake. I mean, I'm not
pretty
sure.
awesome.
Next Thursday for the food treat.
Yeah. it depends.
Where at?
595 Cherry Street, right next to Kids Space.
Yeah.
Okay.
um,
We give away all of the day-old baked goods and anything else that's gonna go bad.
That nobody wanted to take.
So next Thursday at what?
6
Well, the
o'clock.
reason we were giving away all the salmon was.
Do we have to
because
call and make an
we ship
appointment?
it tomorrow.
No, because you're not coming as food pantry people, you're coming as church people. So
Okay.
You're.
If you come to help though, we'd love that.
Yeah, you come do that if you want.
That was on spring break news week.
In spring break.
Yeah. We're not. We were already in spring break.
Well, we always need someone to carry out boxes, and bring with it, he can carry out all the boxes to the cars if he wants.
And he might be able to come and carry some stuff.
That's pretty heavy.
That one poor guy, he it's like they were shoving all these boxes in the back seat and where he was supposed to sit, and very quickly his seat in the car was disappearing.
Who was this?
There was so someone who came to pick up food, and his wife was in the front, and their friend was driving, and I was like, "Where are you going to sit?" I don't know, but it was funny. The wife just kept saying, "Oh, just put it back here with him. He'll be fine." I'm like,
That sounds about right.
like okay.
So did we tell you about Ben Mania? We took my little Honda HRV to Heath to Ben Mania.
BIN Mania, that's where they have bins that you can shop
Yeah,
out of.
where was this, Heath?
Heath, and every day the price drops from 9
Yeah.
to 8. It was a $4 day.
And between Odell and myself,
And
Yeah.
Sherry.
between Odell, myself and Sherry together, we spent over $700.
Oh, my
But we were Christmas shopping too, so we were
And-
starting Christmas shopping.
And
$4
I
a
got-
bin. I can't imagine how much stuff you had.
And I got a blow up for Christmas that's probably from here to the door. And then,
$4.
Cool.
Christmas one
For
$4.
Oh, that is awesome.
and then I got another one that's in a box like this, and somebody said, what is it of? And I went, who cares? It was $4.
But every day, it drops.
Every day the price drops, so it didn't get down to $1.
Yeah, what is this? What is this magical place?
It gets Amazon packages and stuff like that, so
It's stuff that's returned or couldn't get delivered. And
So you
Yeah,
don't
I did not
physically
know
go
about
there.
Yeah, you go.
online.
you have to go.
and then you
Okay,
get
where
through
is
the
it?
bins.
The
There's
one we
different
went
ones.
to, I guess there's one that's not Ben Mania. I don't know the name of it, but it's on Sawmill.
There's one in Johnstown.
But the one in Johnstown and the one in Heath are
Or the
Ben Mania.
Bin Mania. They actually have other stuff.
I should know.
They
this.
actually have.
Me either.
Is it Ben Mania?
I keep telling Dave we need to get rid of things, but this sounds
Yeah.
very
I
exciting.
think there's only two.
There's another store, it's called Dollar something or other, and it's like Bid Mania, at different days, it's different prices. I mean, they have pallets of stuff, and then every day, of course, the piles are gonna get lower and lower, but
And the reason I said something about it was because we took my little Honda HRV and Odell,
it was in the back seat.
she had a little space like this, okay?
And we're gonna
On
talk
top of
about
that, like
messaging
this,
that.
all the way to the door, we had to hold it, slam the door.
Oh my goodness.
And I had stuff pull my lap in between my legs.
Like just enough so she can breathe and yeah.
Take the boys to college. I was always in the back like this, tiny little bit.
And we didn't even go through all the bins.
We
probably said it's-
that were different prices and stuff too.
That's crazy.
And it's a good thing we did, or we wouldn't have had room to put
Well,
it.
no, you would have had to buy a whole new car, and they probably had one in another bin.
They were
Right, just gonna-
me to the top of the car.
But they would have been 14.
That would have been at least 14, yeah.
I couldn't even imagine all the stuff that gets returned.
Can't either.
It's like,
Where did we get a huge George that Heidi and John brought over?
That sounds like a Lily and Faith little
Cauliflower.
trip.
We got this
You guys
massive
used to
amount
take
of
trips. That would be a fun trip to
Because-
go on.
Our friend's dad has a farm market, and Amazon pulls up at this semi-full of cauliflower. And
16 pallets.
he said, I didn't order
Of
cauliflower.
boxes of
And they said,
process.
oh, well, we're gonna dump it then, we're not gonna take it back. They won't take it back, so he took all this cauliflower and gave it away to all of his
Call
friends,
us,
so.
hey, how much cauliflower can you take? So I
crazy.
pickled some cauliflower, so.
but my guess is there is an upward limit as to the amount of cauliflower you can eat.
There is. But you
Yeah.
can freeze it. You can freeze it. You can
Yeah.
find it frozen. I pickled it.
Cauliflower, mashed potatoes.
Oh, that was a good
I was
idea.
gonna say, if I had a racer, you know, like you buy the cauliflower
But
racer.
it's,
I had to do that to my
it was
husband
weird
because
because there's time. It was the
he thought corn was the only vegetable.
Oh.
It was pink and green and purple.
Like you carry it with, Ellie, you carry that with you all the time?
I do.
Just whenever you might need it?
Now, the one thing I learned from Mid-Ohio is that if cauliflower has a little bit of mold or something on the front top, you can just snap that off and eat it. It's one of those things that you can do that with.
How did you find that out?
Doing produce markets, and the Mid-Ohio people said if there's a little bit of mold on the top, just cut it off. However, you're not supposed to do that with bread.
Or cheese.
Or cheese.
Not cheese.
Yeah.
I thought you were supposed to do
Everybody
that.
does it with cheese, but you're not supposed to. I do it with cheese.
Yeah, I thought,
Everybody does.
I just heard that about rice.
That's
I
how
know
they-
you can't leave everything on TikTok. It was this doctor on TikTok that said you shouldn't eat rice past 1 day.
Oh, that's absolutely.
There's a big bacteria that grows in it.
Or if you get if you get rice and you haven't eaten it all, get it to the fridge before it's cold.
Yeah,
Because Bacillus cereus, it's nasty.
yeah, I had no idea that rice was so dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, as my grandmother used to always say, you do not want to picnic your friends Sam and Ella. She used to always say that. Yeah. Yep. Wisdom of grandma. All right. Let's go ahead and let's pray. Holy God, you have created us in your image and called us to be holy. When we seek to live life on our own, your image within us gets covered up by our sin and fear. We need your help to be holy, your help to reach perfection in Christ. We open our hearts to you. We confess our sin and seek your forgiveness. Open our eyes that we may see the message in the mess. Grant us the wisdom to accept your grace and to follow you. Amen. All right, so we saw a junkyard in the video for session 1. And today we're going to a garage where a car has been restored. So as you watch, think about ways in which restoring a car is similar to restoring a person.
You got no candy. And you need some.
We started a series in Salvage Yard talking about what a mess life can become. And then we looked at various steps in the process of restoration. Today I want you to meet Dan. Dan is a guy who has a unique perspective on what it takes to transform something. Dan is the car restoration man. He delights in his car about the same way that God delights in you. Dan spent a lot of time taking his car from the brink of the scrap pile to the beautiful automobile that he enjoys today. I think Dan's journey can help us think about the process of transformation as a whole.
It's a Morgan. Morgan is a British car company. Since the cars are all handmade, no two are the same. I had the car for about 10 years and was driving it regularly. And while minor repairs up to that point kept it running and I was happy, I realized that the car had suddenly become unsafe. So I realized I was in a dangerous position. I was very compromised and decided at that point that I needed to do a major restoration.
When Dan's car was falling apart, he didn't give up on it. He got to work. Make no mistake, Christian sanctification isn't about replacing windshield wipers when the brakes don't work. It forces us to deal with the real issues. It requires us to acknowledge problems that often we just rather ignore. Dan loved his Morgan too much to make small repairs when major renovations were required. And that's how God feels about you and me. The question is whether we are willing to undergo the process of transformation that God has in store for us. Listen to everything that Dan had to do to bring new life to his favorite car.
So naturally, lots of unexpected things turned up. The bonnet, which is the hood, looked like somebody had taken a ball-peen hammer to it, so that had to be replaced. We had to take the gas tank out, flush it, reseal it. The doors were rusted on the bottom. They had to be remade. We needed to replace the brakes in the front of the car. They were working, but not for much longer. This was all in addition to the original objective of just simply replacing the firewall.
Dan's car is a lot like our lives. When you start to deal with the mess in your life, you think it's going to be just one thing, or maybe just a couple of issues that have to be addressed. Pretty soon, you discover that hurts, habits, and sin have done damage in a lot of places. And that can feel overwhelming. Well, here's the good news. You're not alone. God is here, and God knows how to change people, even people who sometimes feel like they should just be towed to the salvage yard and dumped. However, we have to participate in the change that God is leading. Sanctifying grace is experienced when we respond to God's love in such a way that we transform joyfully. We follow the direction of the Holy Spirit. We love others consistently. And we also have people around us. We have family and friends and small group members. They offer us encouragement and counsel. Listen to the difference that other people made in Dan's restoration project.
If you were to ask me what's the first thing you should do if you were going to restore a car that's either old or unique in some way? I would tell you to join a car club. You need a group of people who have already experienced restoration of this thing, who can give you the pointers on how to do it properly. They've seen the kind of unanticipated situations that you'll run into. It's also best if you get the assistance of a professional, someone who can give you advice and tell you how to go about things. I must admit that we probably did an awful lot of arguing with each other about the best way to approach problems, and more often than not, he being a little more practical than me had the right solution, and I really had to learn to listen.
Talking with Dan, I could tell that restoring the car had been a very humbling process. He said he often felt that he was in over his head. On the one hand, he didn't want to turn to professionals for help, but on the other, he knew that he had to seek some guidance from people who knew the way. Think about how true that is for many of us. When your marriage is a mess, a good counselor can make a huge difference. When mental health is compromised, a doctor, psychiatrist, or Christian counselor can be a means of grace in your life. I think Dan was surprised that consulting with members of his car club was actually more enjoyable than he ever expected. By talking things over, he began to develop relationships that he still values today. He even learned the humility of listening to others and accepting help, rather than trying to always do it on his own. So while Dan was restoring a car, he was also being transformed by the process of restoration.
The joy of the restoration process is tackling a project about which you perhaps know very little and being able to master it. The reason I like to take the car out and use it, and I have it out weekly, is because it's a machine. It's meant to be used. It's meant to be enjoyed. I'd rather have a ding in it and have people enjoy it. I take it out, I let kids sit in it so their parents can take pictures, and the thing I enjoy is when I drive down the street, people smile, and that's such a wonderful feeling. Little kids love it especially because they know exactly what it is. It's a big toy.
I really enjoy how much Dan loves his car. He loves working on it, he loves driving it, he loves sharing it with other people. And you can see why Dan didn't just settle for a little restoration here or there. He wanted his unique, handmade car to be at its very best. And that's how God feels about you and me. In 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11, Paul writes, "Strive for full restoration." God created you. God understands the complexities of your journey. God knows about the wear and the tear and the accidents that have left their mark over the years. And knowing that, God wants all the more to help you transform. Let me ask you something. What do you need to do if you're going to experience full restoration?
Well, that was a nice car.
I decided to give us a limited funds.
I just want to know whose garage that was.
All neat and tidy.
All neat and tidy like that. I don't know, you can trust somebody whose garage is that neat.
Boy, you must be able to trust me a lot.
So, why did Dan join a car club when he decided to restore his car? And what benefits and blessings did Dan receive from the people who offered help?
Well, I think he knew that if he joined the club, that he would have help from people who knew a lot more than he did about what he was going to do.
Good advice.
Sometimes it's good to get advice from others who have been there and done that and can tell you, you know, don't use this kind of bolt because that's not going to work.
Before you do it yourself and do it the wrong way and then have to redo it.
That's true.
It's very true.
Probably all been there.
Yeah.
She has, her other sister's husband had a car that he was going to restore, tore it apart, and it's still sitting in the garage, isn't it? Did it rust?
Oh, yeah. He decided to sand it down and repaint it, and he sanded it down and let it.
And then never repainted it?
Right. Because it had some little scratch on it.
Oops. Yeah, so sometimes, you know, our dreams are bigger than, you know, the reality, or, you know, reality does. All right. I'm sure my parents aren't watching this, so I can talk about my dad. Why not? So this would have been 25 years ago now. And my sister lives in Tennessee, or, you know, lived in Tennessee, and they were down there visiting her, and one of her friends had this 68 Mustang that he had just restored, and he was selling it. And my dad decided he was going to buy this 68 Mustang because he was going to start entering it in car shows and do all this stuff. It needed a little work, but not much. I mean, it was really drivable. And so he took this money from the bank and bought this car, and they rented a trailer and put it on the back of the truck and came back home with this, except for the fact that the money that my dad used to buy it was supposed to go to get a new kitchen for their house. Now, my dad did talk to my mom before he did it. It isn't like he just, you know, did it, but my mom's like, oh, you know, okay, you know, it's you know, it's your choice. Obviously, she was not happy. So, as she said, she was gonna get a new kitchen one way or the other. So then, within the year, they bought a new house.
Oh my, that's one way to get the new kitchen.
So she got her new kitchen, and he got his car. To which it sat in the garage, taking up a space for 20 years. I think he entered 3 car shows with it, and 2 of them were at his church. And it sat there so long that the brakes started to go bad because, you know, he wasn't using it or anything. And so after my grandmother quit driving, he put it over in her garage, possibly so my mom would not see it and complain. And when my grandmother died, he ended up selling the car with the house. It was in the garage, and the guy that was going to buy my grandmother's house goes, you know, just kind of jokingly, is the car included? And my dad goes, it can be, and so he goes, oh yeah, how much? He goes, sure. And so the guy bought the car with the house, and it just, yeah, and so whenever I see that, I just think of my dad and his grand idea of redoing cars. Yeah, you know, sometimes though it's good to have people who know how to do things. How does Dan's restored car enhance his life in a way that his unrestored car could not?
Made new friends.
Okay, he made new friends.
Made children happy.
Yeah, it brought joy to others.
Yeah, bringing joy to others, especially children, and so that's cool.
And he wasn't afraid to drive it and be killed in it because it was malfunctioning.
And then I'm sure that brings joy not just to him, but to those who love him, that he's not going to die cruising down the road. How may we go, or who may we go to for help when we seek a restored relationship with God? And what blessings have you received from people who have helped you grow closer to God?
You, I think, it should be you.
Somebody like you.
Yeah.
Oh, Pastor, yeah. I'm thinking.
You or
Someone
someone
from
in your position.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there are some people who just really resonate with us. I can remember, Patty Flowers got up and shared that she had made contact with a group of people in Athens, and it was Good Works, and God had put that on her heart to have as a service project. And so she said, anybody who would be interested, come and see me at the end of church. Well, I had been praying for my next service opportunity, and when she spoke, it was just like she was speaking to me. And I thought, well, I want a little bit of what she's got up there, because, I trusted her.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful experience. It has remained a wonderful experience for me.
Oh,
all
that's
these years.
neat.
And I think like that example, but people that have a good relationship and a strong relationship with God are people that you feel you can go to. Make a good orangey. But you do, you go to people that you think know what's what. You're not gonna ask somebody that you don't think knows what's going on or anything about it.
Or sometimes you do and you explore together.
Yeah, that's true too.
What did you say?
Or sometimes you do find someone that is kind of on the same path you are and you decide to explore together.
So how does a restored life bring you joy?
Feel more peaceful.
Peaceful?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yeah.
Makes you function better.
It does make you function better.
Well, it brings your circle of friends. It makes it bigger, but yet
Better.
closer. And there's just a lot of trust.
Deeper.
Yeah.
Deeper relationship.
Mhm.
Yeah, I liked his analogy of comparing our lives to cars, and sometimes we kind of need a little bit of TLC and to get the wheels back on things and and going, right?
Need to vacuum out the junk and dirt.
Yeah, change the oil once in a while.
Well, sometimes there's things are better than you ever thought. We have a family member who bought an old Mustang. It was really in junky condition, and he hired this man to restore it because he collected cars, and he knew that he wanted it done right. And so the person who was restoring it came to him very soon after starting working on it, and he said, I think we need to stop and research a little bit, because this is a prototype of a Mustang before they ever made a Mustang. And I guess they do clay stuff to make the shapes and stuff.
Yeah.
There were marks in the clay and all of that.
Oh, wow.
It ended up being the oldest Mustang in history.
Oh my goodness.
And, it was worth a lot more than they paid for it.
Sure.
So, he didn't know what he had. All he knew was he wanted an early Mustang.
Oh, sure got it.
Yeah.
Sounds like one of those shows on like the History Channel,
Yeah.
Well, and then they give numbers about, and it's like up to 100 if it's like perfect. Nobody ever gets perfect 100, but this kept getting 99s in all the shows that they take it to. Never put miles on it. They always had this conveyance vehicle that would take it to wherever he wanted it.
See, that's the good thing about my car. It doesn't matter how long I put that in a garage and don't drive it. It's never going to be worth a ton of, no one's ever going to pay $1 million. I don't care if it's 100 years from now.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be worth that, right? But,
Takes the pressure off.
That's easy.
Yeah, it really does take the pressure off. I'm like,
Well, and his family car is like a Ford, is it Escort? It's like a very middle of the road Ford and basic and, you know, nothing fancy, but he collects these fancy things.
that was my very first car. It was a 84 Ford Escort, manual transmission, no radio, no air conditioning. And no power windows. Yeah.
Got your workout.
Yep. And I was glad I had it.
Yes, no kidding.
Yep. And then we would have the starter wouldn't work when I was a senior, stopped working, and people would have to like push start us. Back in the days when you could actually push start a car, right?
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but good times. Anyway, so let's look at our biblical foundation, and it's Philippians 1:6. And it says, I'm sure about this. The one who started a good work in you will stay with you to complete the job by the day of Jesus Christ. So what good work has God started in you?
I'd say the yearning to learn more.
Yeah, that's good. The yearning to learn more. Because there really is a gift that God has to give you. Because
So we don't care.
yeah, if you don't care, you're not gonna do anything. Yeah.
Is it perception to recognize when he's present, when he's doing?
Absolutely. Which isn't something that always comes naturally to everybody, is to, notice God's presence. Absolutely.
Like draw closer to God too, just, daily walk and keep growing closer.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you think the day of Jesus Christ means?
And it means being one with God, finally.
Oh,
Achieving that state.
we're all, as, John Wesley is, famous for saying, we're all going on to perfection, right? And we're going to be talking about that here in just a second, about, we call that sanctification, right? Going on to perfection. What feelings do you experience when you read that God will stay with you to complete the job?
Grateful.
Yes,
Thankful.
because no longer how long it takes, God will be with you.
Yeah.
Would-
Always.
Yeah,
It's the only one you can always count on.
well, pretty much, yeah. Because, as Jesus found out there, which we've been talking about for the last few weeks on Sunday, and we'll be finishing up this week, is, when times get really tough, no matter how people want to stay, they generally get it going. At some point in time, most of the time, there's going to be something that makes them leave, right? I mean, look what happened to Jesus. But God never leaves you. There is never a point where God is going to say, no, this is too much for me, right?
That's funny. I mean, it's kind of funny the way you said that. You're like, you're too much.
Yeah.
Like imagining that. Like everyone else I can handle, but not you.
Right.
No return on investment.
You know,
You would never say
God's
that.
like, oh, not today. I am not in the mood for this right now. I've been dealing, there's a war over here. You aware of this? And now I got to deal with you, right?
You complaining about this one little teeny thing that's so insignificant.
But that God will stay with you until the job is to complete, until you are,
We're in heaven, right? I mean, that's kind of how I was
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And when we open ourselves to God, God is there for the long haul. And even if we mess up, God's not going anywhere. You know, and it's that it's that love that is not dependent upon something that we do, that God is going to love us even if we become unlovable, right? Which isn't something that we are necessarily used to, because so much of the love and care that we do get from people is very much reciprocal, right? And if we aren't being particularly lovable, we're not getting a whole lot of love back.
What do they say? You have to be a friend to make a friend. Isn't that the little saying?
Yes.
Well, in the concept of, I will love you if you love me. And the other person is feeling, I will love you if you love me.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they have is the if. They don't have any of the love.
Yeah, unconditional love is very difficult concept. You know, probably the closest, at least that I can think of in my life and those around me, would be like the love people have for their children.
Yeah. I don't think there's
Usually.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't know a few people who had parents whose love wasn't unconditional, unfortunately. But for the most part, people tend to love their children kind of in an unconditional way. And so I always sometimes use that as an example, especially in like sermons, because I think people kind of understand that. The other one that, I don't know, kind of makes me cringe when people use it, but it gets used all the time now, and it kind of makes sense, is if you want to think about unconditional love, think about your dog.
Yeah, well, hey, puppies.
But
That is why God is God, spelled backwards.
There you
Yep.
go.
You're right, it is. Because, no matter how harshly you speak to your dog, it's still excited when you come home. And it acts like you've been gone 5 minutes, and they act like this is the end of their world, right? Because you've been gone for 5 minutes. And, so while part of me kind of cringes at that, the other part says, that's a pretty good analogy.
Genuine.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it isn't that they're, wanting food or anything.
They love you just the way you are. And
Yes, they don't care.
They don't care about any of your flaws.
I wish I could say I love my dogs unconditionally.
It doesn't always go both ways.
No, it really doesn't. Especially when they're like, messing on your carpet and stuff. And
Well, when they're little puppies and you just get them, there's an awful lot of unconditional love.
Yeah.
Because you just love them. And it's like, oh, well, it's all my fault because I didn't let him out soon
Yeah,
enough.
exactly.
And I didn't put him in the cage. And it's all my fault that the puppy misbehaved. I need to be better.
Yeah.
so,
It's like the trainer's training you, not the dog. So
oh yeah, because the dog's fine. It's you that has to learn. And so like my brother, I think I may have even used this in a sermon a couple of weeks ago about him getting up to go to the bathroom, and he comes back and the dog's taking his spot and won't wake up, even though he's pretty sure she is awake. She's just pretending to be asleep. And so he curls up on the floor next to the bed and goes to sleep. Because he's like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to wake her up. And, and I'm like, you slept on the floor because the dog took your spot. Yeah.
So maybe it does go both ways.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I want to die and come back as one of my brother's dogs. But,
Yeah.
They say be the person your dog thinks you are.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yep.
I think you could do a whole sermon series on people and their dogs. And the word love, there's a lot of things that come to mind, because I use the word love about food more than I do people.
I'll admit to that too, Ricky.
Drew Carey on Price is Right every day at the end says, "I love you." And that drives me crazy. You can't see me, you don't know me, you don't love me. We throw that word around a lot, but a dog can get you to do things without saying a word.
Yes.
And I can't keep my mouth shut, but I get a kick out of people. The dogs now have them picking up their stuff off
Yeah.
the grass.
Yeah.
They didn't ask for that.
One of my favorite Homer Simpson quotes from a long time ago. He's out walking the dog and he's picking up this stuff and he goes, "So you live in our house rent-free, you eat my food, and I pick up your poop. Did we lose a war or something?"
They have us trained very well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and
And
yeah.
it's all in the face, they don't have to say anything or make a noise, it's just the look.
And it's not even your dog. Like the neighbor's dogs can do that, and you're like, "Oh, hold on, I gotta go find you something to eat," Oh, it's bad. It's bad, but
I carry treats in my car because if I see a dog running loose, I would try to get it and take it back home to wherever it lives, and yeah. Doesn't take much.
well, interesting you say that, right? So like, if there's a lost dog, most people will stop and pick up the lost dog and try to help it. But if there was an adult standing on the corner, would you stop and pick them up?
My homeless people always have dogs. Because they get more donations if they have.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah, and kids. I'm assuming that's right. That's because I've noticed that there's lately been addition of children.
Well, there's too many people sitting out on the street collecting money, and then you see them later walking around, going to their car, and then driving home.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't trust, you don't know who's actually out there scamming, and
Oh,
who's
yeah.
actually out there needing help. So it's hard to.
And also, it's not a kind of, as, it's not as kind, previous days were kinder. You can't trust a person just because they're homeless.
We really can't trust
Having
people.
said that, I do pick up people.
Pardon? I'm sorry?
I do pick up people along the side of the road. And it brought me great joy one time, because it was raining hard.
Yeah.
I was in Canal, and was going all the way to Obet's walking.
Aw.
So I picked him up and we're driving, and he said, "Thank you, thank you." He said, "Aren't you afraid that, I'm some kind of mass murderer?" And I said, "What are the odds on 2 mass murderers?"
That's awesome.
And did he hop out of the car at that point or wait till the car stopped?
You just,
Got a kick out of it.
that's, oh my, all right, I am using that on a Sunday. I just want you to know that.
Really, really
That's
good.
also why working at the food pantry is an exercise in faith. It really is, because, today, we were working at the food pantry and taking food out to people's cars. I mean, these people drive better cars than I do. And you're like, you don't know their story. You don't know their story. It's an exercise in
They
faith.
could have lost their job,
Exactly.
they could have this, they could have that. It's-
Yeah.
Not only that,
Not to be judgmental.
not only that, but I do know that when my stepdaughter was younger, she went up to Riker and she got a car, okay? And they sell you a car that you can't afford.
Yeah.
That's true too.
That's a
So-
great point. That's why people are calling, because they leverage themselves
Yeah.
on cars and things. So,
And that's true also of these homes they build for you.
yeah.
They put people that,
Can't afford the taxes even.
right, and their credit's not really that good, but they've worked it around so they can get one of these houses, and they can afford it.
I heard on a podcast this morning, they were talking about people buying houses they couldn't afford. And that mortgage companies will approve you up to 50%. So they'll approve you for a mortgage and the payment is 50% of your gross pay for the month. And they'll approve you. and they will approve you for that mortgage. And it's like, can you imagine that 50% of your take-home pay is going to one payment? I mean, how are you going to afford to live?
Yeah.
Or to, as you said, put food in the house or furniture for that matter.
You'll live in a big house
Yeah.
and then you'll be eating ramen noodles because you can't buy groceries, so.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's sad. Oh, we should be so lucky.
Wow,
Ramen noodles.
They are pretty awesome.
I don't
wow,
eat
it
them anymore.
sounds like people did this before and it didn't turn out so good. I just can't imagine when that would have been, 2008, yeah, I was just shocked, and I'm like, well, I'm not complaining about my mortgage.
Well, and that's why there are so many empty boarded up homes and relatively new housing developments.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of selling them those houses, they sell them a house that they have to build for them.
Well, we have brand new, like half my subdivision is brand new. And they are a good number of those houses that, when they were built, went right into rentals. Because rent is so high now that people are just, or companies, not people, companies are buying them. And then what happens is we have an HOA, and the HOA, the original bylaw said that in order to change any bylaw, you had to have 75% approval from the homeowners. Well, that's great, except those companies won't vote, right? They have no interest in voting. Yeah, they couldn't care less one way or the other because we wanted to put in fences and something else. And then you also had to be up on your HOA. You couldn't be behind on your HOA dues. And if you put those two things together, there isn't 75% of the houses that can even vote. So we can't change anything. So now, whether they're trying to go about another way to get it changed because people want fences for their doggies. Back to the dogs.
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle. Everything goes back to dogs. But so let's talk about sanctification. Sanctification is the process of becoming like Jesus Christ in the way we live and love. John Wesley described this as having a heart habitually filled with the love of God and neighbor. So in this week's reading, Tom Berlin makes the point in the section titled Getting Serious About the Message that God desires complete restoration and transformation in our lives, not a patchwork job. And the last paragraph of this section of the book says, right now, you may be thinking, this book must be for other people. He can't be talking about me. But the Bible's message is that Jesus' death and resurrection happened for nothing less than the sanctification of all who would follow him. Sanctification, complete sanctification, in which you are fully formed and owned by God's love, will reveal that you are, in fact, a masterpiece. So, do you find it hard to believe that Tom Berlin is talking about you?
Well, of course, we all have our insecurities and don't think that we can be perfect in God's love or perfect in God's eyes.
Sure. Yeah, because it seems like if I were to think, well, I can be perfect in God's love, well, that seems like an arrogant statement to make, right? And knowing me, no, that's not going to happen, right? So what does sanctification mean to you?
I keep rereading that first sentence there. It says, the process of becoming like Jesus Christ is the way we live and love. And it's just so beautiful, I just think that's great. we could just always think like that. I think we need to get back to the little bracelets, you know, what Jesus do. I think we need those again. I think our world needs that right now.
This is the only book I've read, including anything to Emmaus, which helped me to really understand this concept of prevenient grace and justifying grace. And what I related to is my career. So prevenient grace is your symptoms. You know there's something wrong. Justifying grace is your illnesses. What is wrong? You find out what's wrong and get a diagnosis. And sanctifying grace is your cure. And so, but you have to, like most things, you have to participate in your cure. You have to do physical therapy and change your diet. So it's not just sitting back and waiting to be cured. It's participating.
That's the second thing you said tonight that I'm going to steal from you.
I know.
Because that is really, really good.
I hope all that came through on that day.
I know, that was really good.
I never understood up until this book.
But you're right, and especially what I really liked was that you have to participate in the sanctification in your treatment plan. You know, as my doctor told me, I actually have to swallow the pills she gives me. I'm like, seriously, really? You know, you have to be willing to help and to work. I mean, God's going to help you, obviously, but yeah, you got to be willing to work.
And I like the concept that it is a process, which tells me that it's over time, and that it's a process of becoming, which means we aren't there yet, and that's okay, because that's God's plan, to be becoming, not a done deal. That when I have people make reference to me in their conversations that they were saved and now everything's just wonderful, and I'm thinking, oh, well, tell me more. Because I don't think of it in those terms, because I think it's a lifelong process, and you go through all kinds of situations and people over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not done with me yet, and that's okay, because that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like that car, right? That there's some major body work that needs done. It's rolling down the road now. It's safe. The brakes work, but there's still things that need tweaked, right? There's, you know, maybe some headlights that need a little bit of adjusting here and there, and that kind of thing. And you know, that's similar. It is with us, right? You know, we might be on the right path, but there's still things that need adjusting here and there.
With raising of children, that's one time in your life when, okay, you're raising your children, but now I'm in the aging process, living in a building with people who are aging, and so that's a whole other set of circumstances, but it's still the process of becoming. And I take comfort in that I don't have to be perfect or I'm thrown out with the bathwater.
Thank goodness.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's well. I to go back to like the disease kind of metaphor. You know, it's like when the doctor gives you a prescription to get better. Well, you start taking your antibiotics. It doesn't work necessarily overnight. Probably start feeling good, and then what? You stop taking the antibiotics, right? You don't finish the whole course, and then guess what? You get sick again, and then you go back and blame the doctor because, well, how come this didn't work, and now I'm sicker than I was before?
And then sometimes you get a rash, and sometimes you upchuck, and you have raging headaches, and so that's part of the process. It's the process over time.
Absolutely. So try to imagine the masterpiece that God is making in you, even if it's hard to imagine. And then if you want, you can jot that down, but think about what God is trying to make with you, because God has a dream for you, right?
I think that's probably one of the hardest things to do, because we're all so used to living in the here and now that we can't see. I mean, obviously we can't see the future, but you know, we're also tied up in the busyness of today that we fail to see that this is a work in progress, and I think it's difficult to imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are masterpieces and some people are just a nice painting. I think I'm just a nice painting.
Aww.
But I'm learning to stand on my own because I have to now. And I'm learning where I can help. I'm not a masterpiece, but I can help.
But that's the whole.
That's part of becoming a masterpiece, yeah.
Title of the book is Restored, so you get a kind of grimy, dingy painting, but God can take off all the lacquer and spruce it up and get you in a better frame and make you a masterpiece.
I'm like the painting that I did when I was a kid of a deer in the forest, paint by number.
Oh, the paint by number.
Didn't look like the box.
Well, I think sometimes just like about the masterpiece you'll be, it's sometimes hard to even know, this is a whole other thing, but it kind of made me think that what gifts God has really given you. You know, you think, oh, this is what I feel called to do. This is what I feel like I have skills to do. But is that really what your gifts are? What you know? And sometimes that's hard to recognize. And I think that's all part of the process. Is like realizing those things. And it's not easy.
Well, then it comes and goes. It's like I learned that why I'm here is to love and to nurture. And that's all, but that's enough. But then there are some days that I'm a lot better at that than others. And so that's all part of the process. And we can't beat ourselves up, nor should we. And we can't beat other people up, nor should we. We just do the best we can with every breath that we're given until we don't have any more breaths.
I always get stressed when people say that with those terms like, you need to live each day like it's your last. Make every day count. And I'm like, sometimes I'm just trying to get through the day. It's not going to be a special day. Like, oh, I made all these memories. No, I just went to work and then came home and sat on the couch. You know, it's not always going to be like that. And I think that's stressful when you think it's got to be perfect every day. We're trying to do all these things. I think.
But that's a very accepted, trope in society now, is live every day. But there's a word for those people, they're sociopaths.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and if I lived every day the way I wanted, I'd be like 600 pounds.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the other thing of it too. So you can't.
You can't do like it's your last. Well,
Yeah. Well, it will be my last one.
Well, I have a dear friend I've known since the first day of first grade, and we celebrate, it's like we have 71 years of friendship now, and we celebrate that, and a lot of it is that we celebrate that we have known each other through our best of times, our worst of times, and the way boring, nothing times. I mean, we can be in any of those phases and the love is still there. The relationship is still there. And I think sometimes living life, it can't all be agony or ecstasy. There's a boring middle in there too. But if you're sitting on the lap of Jesus, it can be pretty comforting.
Yeah. Sometimes the advice people give you isn't always the greatest in the whole wide world. Sometimes people think they're being helpful. And it's like, no, not so much. So think about a person you know who has a close relationship with God. And what spiritual disciplines does this person follow to remain closely connected with God?
The people closest I know of, his role is mass he's got mass every morning. So he's at mass every day at 6 a.m.
He swears like a sailor though, so.
He does, but that's.
What did you say, Elaine?
He said he swears like a sailor, but.
Well, hey, it all balances
Can't
out.
have everything.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
Mass in the morning and does the rosary.
And that dedication.
Dedication.
So it's like if you get up and you always do a devotion, or you always do your Bible reading and your prayer time, like that's how you start. Or, you know, if you have those certain times, I think it's that dedication that
Dedication,
you are
discipline.
you're focused on making sure that's an important, you know, main part of your day.
Oh my gosh. You said, but he swears like a sailor, right? Just before you guys came, I watched a video. And it was a church, and they did immersion baptism. And there was this guy, this kind of buff guy. And he gets the Duncan, and he comes up. Yes, well, or yeah, somehow, yeah. And it looked kind of like one of those non-denominational churches, which is just Baptist without a name. The pastor is standing in the water with the microphone, and saying this, which hey, I mean that right there. And he goes, so tell me, why did you want to be baptized today? All right, I'm about to swear, so it's okay, because I'm quoting somebody. And he leans over, and the guy goes, because I used to be a piece of shit. And the pastor goes,
True that.
okay, and then like hear like all the people laughing, like this is clapping, right? Now, the point of the video was that people were like appalled that he swore, but they kind of missed the whole point. Was that he was just admitting the truth, which is he wasn't the best guy, and as we talk about sanctification, he's still on his way, but he's getting there, but. Of course, it also told me is you always want to make sure what people are going to say before you hand them a mic. Yeah.
It's a dangerous job.
Yeah, that's why you never give a little kid a mic. But I've made that mistake. But all right. So let's go ahead. Oh, we're already late. So let's go ahead and let's finish with our closing prayer. Holy and generous God, we thank you for your amazing gifts of love and grace. We thank you for the gift of sanctifying grace and the joy of living a holy life. Guide us on our journeys of faith. Help us keep our eyes on Jesus Christ so that we will learn from his example. Fill us with the power of your Holy Spirit, so we may have the courage and wisdom we need to follow you. Open our eyes to the needs of those around us, so that we may share the good news of your love and grace with others. Amen. All right. The new books they weren't here today, so I guess unless they come tomorrow, they won't be here in time for Sunday. So we'll see what happens there, but still have a little while because we're not going to be starting until after Easter, because of course next week is Holy Week. So next Thursday we have a worship service. Yeah. So and we have plenty of candy ready to go for the Easter egg hunt on Sunday, because Steve and Mark were in there and they had extra candy after they got everything done. So
There was a lot of candy in there.
There was a bunch of candy. So
But I want mine back because I stuck some in there yesterday.
Ricky, you have to hunt for the eggs to get it.
That's okay, I've got Kit Kat in the refrigerator.
Now, the new study will be gout.
it'll be on gout. That'll start the week after Easter.
This one has been It's the best study I've ever done. I really, really.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So we've got big hopes for the next one, okay? I mean, you know.
Well, I even went to the training for the next one.
That's, I remember you saying that, but yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you would talk about the chapters, and I was so excited. Like, when you talked about it, I was like, oh, I'll get through this one first, but this was so good, so now I'm really excited for the next one.
So you said next Thursday is worship service?
It is at 7 o'clock, where we're doing our Monday, Thursday service, and we're gonna combine it with Good Friday, so we only have one service for Holy Week. So it's gonna be Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. So, it'll be interesting. And poor Nancy has been typing herself about to death in there. I know. I know her fingers are like worn down to the bone, typing all the bulletins and stuff. Yeah, it's bad. I'm just working her to death.
Well, she looks pretty good, though. We were saying you don't have any skin left, you know, on your fingertips from all that.
I do. I have some good help.